All right, it's time for another edition, a special edition of Betting Weekly Tennis Live, the show that covers tennis gambling, the best in the world. I'm Mitch Michals, the host, alongside Tim Dennis. It's all part of the Bet Rivers Network. Make sure you're downloading the app. All U.S. Open, up to 50% profit boost as well. It's the best deal around. This tournament rages on. We're into the second day of quarterfinals. It's going to be tons of great action. One match in progress. We're on social at Because We Win. The YouTube channel is buzzing. We're over 10,000 subscribers and counting. The X account, the Instagram account, and we've got a lot of tennis to break down. Quarterfinal day on this Wednesday. Tim Dennis, Tim, how's it going? And ultimately, how have you been enjoying this U.S. Open as it rages on?
Hi, Mitch. Yeah, nice to see you. Yeah, really been enjoying it. I think it's been great. It's great on both sides, the men and the women's. We've got a good in-play match here at the moment with Minaur and Felix, and obviously in the men's, you've still got the big two in. And obviously Djokovic winning last night, making him get that Alcaraz game, and then Sinner trying to do his best tonight to keep that sort of blockbuster final intact. And yeah, some great women's matches too. So I think so far so good. It's been a great tournament, and one I, as much as everyone else, I'm sure, has really enjoyed.
Certainly has. There's stuff to discuss about last night, the quarterfinal matches with the Djokovic win, with some, the withdrawal from Vondrousova that gave Sabalenka a spot. But we do have one match going on live right now. Felix Auger-Aliassime taking on Alex de Minaur. De Minaur is up a set. They're in the middle of a brutally long fourth game. De Minaur trying to level the second set at 2-all. It's plus 230 Felix, plus 220 Felix on the money line, minus 305 De Minaur, who's up a set. This feels, Tim, like it could be a long day at the office, and we'll get into the in-play bets. But this has also been highlighted and marked as an opportunity section. Both players, in Felix's case, maybe doing a little more heavy lifting, but they're one win away from a semifinal, which would be groundbreaking for de Minaur and the second time for Felix.
Yeah, plenty on the line here, and I think this is a key game. De Minaur's got the advantage again if he can hold here, because Felix, he just looks to have. I think if he doesn't win this game, that'll frustrate him. He's had a few chances, and he just seems to be not running out of ideas just yet. But sort of De Minaur, I think De Minaur was fairly poor in the first set, and he still managed to win it. I think he served at, I think he was about 47% first serve in, and Felix still wasn't able to take advantage of that. So I just thought probably as they go back to juice number 6 again now, it's if he wasn't going to take advantage of that first set, I just thought, could he take advantage here? And if I think if this is a key game, he'll get some belief if he can go and break here. But if he doesn't, that might be a bit of a kick in the stomach to him.
The exact opposite, right, of the Rublev match, where it seemed like Rublev had all these chances, couldn't convert, and then gets really frustrated, goes out in straight sets. And yeah, depending on how this goes, we've got another ad for de Minaur as I'm following along with the rest of you. You can go to the Bet Rivers website on your laptop. You can go to your device and your phone. You can follow along. But as it stands right now, we mentioned the money line odds are reflecting. Set 2, Felix is minus 139 as he gets back to deuce. So still minus money there. The over right now, Tim, that's always one we kind of target. It's 10.5 games for set 2 as of right now. I mean, now it's down to 9.5. We're looking at minus 190 plus 130. So any thoughts on a number you would like over or under in the games in set 2?
I think the games might be tricky because obviously with Felix serving first, if he does break here, chances are it's going to be 9. So with that one single break, but I think if I was betting in play now, I'd like the de Minaur set 2. I think it's in live play now, minus 117 as he's got the advantage. I just think, like I said, with de Minaur winning that first set, playing as what I thought was fairly poor for him and still managing to win it. I think if he holds here, that'll give him a bit of belief. And yeah, minus 112 as he's got a second serve. But yeah, I think that would be my way of looking at it. I like de Minaur on to win set 2.
So you like at the moment under 40.5 games on the live total games odd right now? Is that where you're?
Yeah, I would row in with that too. I think if I was going somewhere, I just think if Felix can't, he's just like I said earlier, he might just be looking to not run out of ideas just yet, but perhaps become a little bit frustrated that he can't break through.
You start to notice these trends, right, with certain players, and we'll get to one of them on the WTA side, but there's certain players, Tim, you feel like are playing better downhill. So maybe it's when you look at the spread live in the moment, which ones, because it only takes one game, right? One break or one big hold, and that number is going to jump. So part of it is getting in when you want to. Before we get to later matches today, just looking at what happened yesterday, Djokovic beating Fritz for the 11th time was, the headline of it because it was the only night match. I thought that was a very interesting match. It was one that Djokovic grinded, but I do think, especially how those first 2 sets went, Fritz is going to be kicking himself because this didn't look like some of the matches in the past where Djokovic just dominated and was clearly the better player. I think this was for the taking at times, and Fritz just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think especially in that second set when he got the break back to sort of level at 5-all, and then he just gave away his serve immediately for all the hard work was kind of pretty much undone. And it would have been interesting to see if Fritz could have took that fourth last night. I mean, I don't know about you, but I probably would have made him favourite. Then to take the fifth, Djokovic was even in them rallies at the back end of that fourth set. He was sort of down on his knees, wasn't he? Haunched over, just blowing quite hard, and obviously that's understandable at his age. And that's why I think he's a level below the Sinner and Alcarazes we're seeing now.
Yeah, the line reflects that too. I thought was a couple of things interesting. One was crowd was kind of getting to him, and it almost did, like, as opposed to the past. I think Djokovic's game dipped a little bit as opposed to the past when sometimes he would rise up when the crowd gets against him. But the live lines even reflected it. When it wasn't even, third set wasn't even over yet, I think he was down a break, but it was minus money to go 5. So I think they're starting to reflect that, maybe he's not going to, last as long and make these rallies. But to his credit, I mean, 38 years old, Tim, all 4 major semis, he's back into the top 4 at the very least when this US Open ends. So you got to just marvel at what Djokovic can do and how he can play the big points remarkably well. Because again, even that fourth set, it wasn't a gimme. Djokovic had to rise his game and had to serve exceptionally well to win this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at probably players like Zverev must be looking at that thinking, why can't I find some consistency like he's got? Obviously, Shelton had the injury, which is disappointing for him. But yeah, Fritz looking on. I mean, I bet they can't wait for this guy to retire because that'll at least give him a chance of making these semis. Because yeah, like you say, Djokovic locking all 4 up now so far this season. And I mean, it's almost a shame he isn't a few years younger because we'd love to see him at his very best playing the Alcarazes and Sinners at their best, which they seem to be now. So that would be a sight to behold. But yeah, I think he's just a couple of years too old now to mix it with them, even though he does look better than everyone by the other 2.
I know. There's just certain layers, and it makes a lot of people smarter than me look good when there's like 3 tiers of tennis. It's the Sinner Alcaraz tier, Djokovic is his own tier, and then it's the cut below. So props to him. Unfortunate, though, that there was only one night match, right? No Vondrousova looked like her knee in practice. It gives Sabalenka the walkover. Vondrousova looks so good in that Rybakina match, especially how she served out that match down 15-40 in that final game. Just a brutal break, and we'll see how it affects Sabalenka, if it's a benefit to get that rest or if she would have, preferred match toughness. But tough one for Vondrousova. She had just been playing so well, Tim.
Yeah, real shame for her. I mean, you get some of these players who just then almost sort of littered with injuries, aren't they, throughout their career? You look at players like her and oh god, the name escapes me now. The Canadian girl that
Andreescu, yeah,
Andreescu, exactly. Yeah, you just sort of, your heart goes out to them because I think I saw a video of her just warming up on the practice courts before the match yesterday, and then you just see her back off at a set. It's her knee, was it? Was that the
She's had a couple different injuries. This was her knee. I think she might have had some knee issues in the past, but it happened so sudden. And as these competitors are all very, very, competitive people, it had to be serious for her to pull out at this stage. Like, it had to be, you would try everything to just take the court and see what happens. So
yeah, it's a real shame for the tournament as well. And I mean, Sabalenka's the one that sort of hugely benefited, isn't she? She's had a fairly, well, not a tough run through, but she played a few long sets.
Isn't that funny, Tim? Like that, this was supposed to, when we did the US Open draw show, where they just randomized all the orders and dropped it all on us like a bomb. But we all thought, a lot of people, not just us, that Sabalenka had the tougher draw. What a tough section, what a tough draw. And that's why you can't go on chalk, right? It just opened up nicely for her. So you never know who really does have a tough draw.
Yeah, hasn't it, Justin? Oh, yeah, bye through, quarterfinal. Now she plays Pegula, who she beat in last year's final. So
she looked good yesterday. I mean, Pegula, I think Krejcikova was a little tired. It was a lot emotionally and physically, that Townsend match. But I know Pegula hasn't played a seeded player yet, but Krejcikova is not your typical unseeded player. And I thought Pegula yesterday looked very good, efficient, and was pinning Krejcikova back on the court. When Jesse's rolling, I think, Tim, it's that depth she gets on her shots.
Yeah, definitely. And she was hitting the ball clean, not making many errors. And if she can repeat that against Sabalenka and then sort of force her to either hit winners, or the errors may well come off that Sabalenka racket, as we've seen time and time again. So I think if she can keep that solid game intact, then she's going to give Sabalenka plenty to think about. And she had her chances in that final last year, didn't she? So she should be thinking she can get to her.
Well, before we get to today's matches, a couple women's matches as well, as Felix and Minaur are still in a battle.
Yeah, held that marathon game,
That's how it works.
You see that a lot, don't you? You see a player not have plenty of chances to break, not take that break, and then immediately get broken because they're almost their mind is still thinking about previous games.
We call that the boomerang break. I think I've heard it referred to on the air by some analysts. So yeah, maybe that's one where, and I didn't look at the odds in the moment really hell, but maybe that's when you go to Bet Rivers, you just bet break immediately when you see that. So
yeah, he's held one of those, and I think de Minaur, we sort of highlighted that slightly, didn't we? At about -110, he's -225 for that second set victory now.
de Minaur healthy too. de Minaur just being healthy is big, not being able to take the court at Wimbledon. So good to see him back. But I did want to look at we don't have men's futures because we're kind of in an in-between spot. I think the center side of it's good, but we have a graphic for women's futures right now. And this is what the outright market looks like at the U.S. Open. No surprise, it's Sabalenka and Iga. Osaka shoots up to the third spot. Then it's Pegula, Anisimova, Muchova, the final 6 women left on this board. So, Tim, I'm going to ask you the question of how fairly you think this is priced. If there's, and we don't have to get on picks or plays or who you're backing, but how does the board make sense or not make sense to you based on these numbers?
I think it makes sense in that Sabalenka's favorite because obviously she's through to that semi. To get there, Iga has to win a match, and obviously if she does, I think she'll probably go favorite again, maybe sort of +130 or shorten a little bit. I think Osaka's a little bit short for me there. I thought if she was the one who, I mean, I've mentioned a few times I'm keen on Anisimova, and I've backed her for this tournament early on in the year, and I was looking through that list that was on the screen there, and funnily enough, the only player I'm worried about is the one she's playing tonight. I'd fancy her to beat any other player on that list.
Yeah, I mean,
she has to be Iga tonight to even worry about that. But
talking to some people, funny, right? Talking to my mom even about this, and she's like, "I hope she just wins a game." It starts there. Just get on the scoreboard and let's go from there.
But, me too, and well, that make 3 of us with Amanda Anisimova and her team too. But I think she'll be more competitive. Obviously, she can't get worse than Wimbledon, but I spent to Roy. I think the biggest key for her is she has to get off to a good start, doesn't she? And even whether she serves first or second, I think it's imperative that worst case it's 1-1 after 2 games for Anisimova.
Yeah, I think a couple things are going to help her. American crowd, also not a final, not the Wimbledon final, so a little bit better there. Not all the pressure, all the eyeballs, everything that comes with it. So. And I do think she's bounced back well. She hasn't shelled up. She's done well. And her draw hasn't been the easiest. She's made some pretty good players look pretty pedestrian. So that's one for sure. Osaka seems like after beating Coco, it's the dark horse there. I mentioned last week, Tim, that earlier this week, I think that how everything went out in Canada, her numbers would have been a little higher if she didn't go out the way she did. But I think she's handled everything well, and I think she's a live dog for sure. I think maybe she might be short because people are still looking at that match like Coco Gauff just didn't bring it, which might be unfair. Probably is unfair to Osaka, but you can only handle what you're doing. So I think she played a very clean, efficient matchup, and I'm excited to see. It's probably a good segue to get into that match because it's no lock, it's no gimme. Karolina Muchova has made a name for herself in recent years, getting to this stage, quarterfinals and beyond at the U.S. Open. She is a sizable underdog in this match, +230 to Naomi's -275. The number on the spread is 4.5. You see set bets, 21.5 over under. Tim, I guess before we get into picks, the first thing I'm going to ask you is this line a reflection of Muchova playing a lot of tennis and maybe not being 100% energy-wise?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think if she's obviously played every match she's played has gone to a third set so far this week. And there is that sort of slight question mark with maybe the niggling injuries here or there. She had that. She looked injured in that when she lost that second set against Kostyuk. Then, right, but to her credit, after taking that big break in between sets. She came back and took that third set, but I think that's definitely reflected in the market there. I mean, these two have met 4 times, and it's 2 each, and it's actually 1-1 either side of Osaka coming back. So on the stats and their previous matches, it's all very close. I think on the other 4 occasions, Osaka's made this stage of a slam. She's gone on to win the tournament each time. So certainly good memories for her as far as sort of quarterfinals and going forward are. But yeah, I think there is definitely a slight worry about Muchova. I think if we knew she was 100%, then I think those lines would be a little bit shorter, and I think there might be a slight question mark.
She's made the semis the last 2 years, so that's where I kind of start with that. Like in this setting, she's been doing well, and she lost to Pegula, she lost to Coco Gauff. Both matches she was in competitively last year, could have arguably won. So I wonder if we're looking at picks and plays. If you see this as one-way traffic, if you're looking for Naomi to kind of make her move and make a statement, or do you think this is going to be more competitive than maybe the numbers reflect?
Yeah, I think it probably could be that we are taking a little bit on trust Muchova, but I think if you can sort of see in play that she's moving well and she's hitting the ball nicely early, then I'd probably be looking to perhaps get in on the over games line, because I mean the 3 of the 4 times these have played, it has gone to a final set. And I think the line was at over, when I looked, I think this was yesterday, I probably haven't checked there, but over 21.5 was -112. I don't know if that shifted at all.
Yeah,
but
it's shifted down actually a little bit. It's -110. So you have that. You also have her to win a set at -118. Those would be what I would target. Maybe if you're looking at something and you want to look at Osaka, maybe to win the first set to see if Muchova's got it, because even in these matches she's won, I think she's dipped the first set on occasion. But yeah, I would be looking at those two, whether it's games for over Muchova or maybe just to take a set.
Yeah, I think as long as she's 100%, and it'd probably be, I think if I was looking to have a bet now, I'd be looking at the over 21.5, because I just think on their head-to-head in their previous matches, and obviously we've seen Muchova go to the third set every time this week. And I don't know about you, but I think we were all against Gauff from the start of this tournament, but I think Osaka did look okay against her the other night, but I thought Gauff was really poor, and I don't think she had much to beat.
No, but you're right. But what was crazy about that was she didn't lose because of her serve. Now, you can argue that Coco's serve struggles bled into her other game and wrecked her, and that's fair. But I was more impressed with Naomi's serve. It was like 90% first serves and like 70 plus on the second. Like, she didn't give Coco a sniff. And that's, Naomi is, as a returner, maybe the closest thing to Serena, just taking full cuts on the baseline with power. But at her best, winning slams, it's when she's serving at an elite level. So that's the part where if she's just serving masterfully, she can and maybe will beat everyone in this tournament.
Yeah, if she can serve like she did against Coco, then she certainly will be tough to beat. But Muchova's, I think I would look at those serving stats, and I think she's got a fairly decent return on that serve. I think at the Aces market, I think she served 6, 6, 5, and 12 actually in those games. So she obviously does like serving against Muchova too still. So if she can serve like that, then she will be tough to beat. But I think there's a little bit of a question mark about which Muchova we're going to see.
Well, looking at it right now, Felix is back on serve. Gets that break back. It's up to plus 215 on the money line, 40 love, race into the changeover. So suddenly there. Good time as our commenter comes in here. Can Musetti win a set? It's been harder and harder to find value on Jannik Sinner matches. There were a lot of people going into the Bublik match, Tim, that thought, okay, maybe Bublik can offer resistance. He's beaten him this year, 55 service games, 55 holds. And then he's broken in his first 2 games serving. So that was an annihilation. We go to the Sinner Musetti matchup, and it's, man, what a high number for a major quarterfinal. The Italian affair taking on Lorenzo Musetti, minus 2,500 on the line. If you want Musetti to take a set, you can get some real good value there. You see the numbers. An over-under of just 30.5 is truly terrifying. Does Sinner just keep it rolling, Tim? Is there an obstacle? Is there any impediment on your radar for this match?
I don't think so, to be honest. I mean, I was sort of flicking through markets to try and find a bit of value on Sinner somewhere. I think Sinner leads the head-to-head 2-0, and Musetti's actually had 6 career meetings against players in the top 5 at slams, and he's lost them all. So that kind of tells you the task he's got here. Musetti's played well so far in this tournament, but he has been gifted a good draw with pretty much playing a couple of injured players there. I think even though Minaur finished the match the other night, he was clearly not 100%, and I think the same against his countryman in the previous round, where he retired after 2 sets Kaboli. So yeah, it was a difficult one. There's a few different markets I was looking at. You've obviously got I'll just get it up on my screen there now. You've got Sinner to win in 3 sets to love is obviously heavy minus money there. And then on the handicap is quite high. I think it actually moved from 7.5. I think it might be up to 8.5 now. Total games is at 30.5 with under being minus 120. So I sort of delved all the way into the sub markets, and I thought the best way I could find, I think, like again, Musetti's total games, I think that line was 12.5 yesterday. That's come down to 11.5. So
yeah,
you can see where it's all going. And I think the other bets. Let me just find out where it was. It was the total minutes market though that I was looking at, because if you've got Sinner to win in straight sets, yeah, I think he's
151 right now. So we're looking at 151. So math is about 2.5 hours, which
2 hours 31.5 minutes. Yeah. So I mean, if you look, he's minus 220 to win in straight sets, and I think if he does win in straight sets, it's almost certain to be under 2.5 hours, and that bet comes in there at minus 114. So I think if I was kind of looking for value, like I said, the 12.5 has gone to 11.5. So yeah, I think that was probably the best way of going for it for me.
Well, if you want to talk yourself into Musetti and just playing the devil's advocate here, plus 160 to win a set, he has had sets against good players, and like famously Alcaraz, right, where he wins a set and then just gives out all of his energy and sometimes doesn't even finish the match. So there has been that side. And look, I think Jannik Sinner is playing at a level that is unmatched right now. Maybe Alcaraz can match it, but that's coming off of a Bublik match. If we did this show after the Shapovalov match, maybe we're singing a different tune. So I don't think the outcome is really much in danger. I would be absolutely stunned, jaw to the floor, but a set could be in the cards depending on it. And I guess that's where you look at it too, right? It probably has to be set 1, because I don't see Jannik fading away down the stretch. I see him locking in. But set 1 would be the one. So if you are feeling froggy, maybe you see set 1 Musetti or just an over in total games in set 1. I think that could be a play. But if you like Jannik, I think minutes is the way to go, because there just doesn't seem to even be value on straight sets anymore with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, even though they played, obviously it was only best of 3 sets when they played in Monaco and Antwerp. I think it was an hour and 16 and an hour and 35 respectively. It was just over 2 hours when he played Popper in here earlier in the tournament. 1 hour 40 against Capriva, sorry. An hour and 50 for his quarterfinal in Australia last year against Minaur in probably what you think is a similar kind of matchup, perhaps. So I think just this stage of the tournament, I think Sinner is going to be locking in, like you guys say, and I think these are his perfect conditions, aren't they? A reasonably slick hard court, I think, is Sinner's best surface. And yeah, I think looking at those handicaps and set markets, I think it's if he is going to win in straight sets, I mean, it's almost certain it's going to be under 2.5 hours. So yeah, for me, that's the best way of getting with him.
Yeah, and you got individual stat bets too, right? Over 5.5 breaks for Sinner is plus 125. So could be something to maybe sprinkle on if you think this is going to be a beatdown. He hit that fairly quickly against Bublik. So yeah, no issues with the heat either, right? Cool conditions. That's been something maybe Sinner in the past, long physical matches. So we shall see as we continue on here with Betting Weekly Tennis Live. Mitch Michals, Tim Dennis, all part of the Bet Rivers Network. Download the app, get in on the action. Follow us on our socials at Because We Win, and go to the Betting Weekly Studios website to get the newsletter as well. And we continue on with this one match in progress right now that we're looking at, and that's Felix and Minaur, and we're 4-all. So this set, it seems like, I mean, I don't want to say it's a reoccurring theme, Tim, but whenever we're on, I feel like the over is just cash on these sets. It's another long physical match in the U.S. Open.
Yeah, here we go. A couple more holds now, and yeah, you won't be far off a tie break. Yes, Felix plus 102 to win this set, and he's obviously got the advantage of serving first. Diminor now -134 in play. As I assume Felix has probably missed his first, he's held his first serve. So yeah, -118 now. It just shows how quickly it's changing. Felix wins set 2, but I'd still just worry whether. I know Duncan Evans says now's the time to get to Felix, and he could be right, but I'm going to stick with Diminor, my man. I think I called him earlier. Obviously, he took that break, but obviously he was broken back immediately, which is slightly put him on the back foot again. But I just, still Diminor just for me, but it looks a toss for coin right now.
Yeah, I was looking at the stats just now. Felix in the last year is like 18-11 on tie breaks. So maybe I would think it'd be better because of his serve and because you think that he might lock in. But yeah, sometimes those stats don't always tell the full story. Looking at Minaur as well, he's 13-4. So maybe the tiebreak edge does go to the better returner or the faster mover should we get there.
Yeah, just looking at the service points, one of the return points from this set so far is in favor of Felix, but that's probably just because he's 30 love up on his serve so far. We'll see what those are in a minute. But yeah, Diminor was leading those stats in the first set, and yeah, just maybe Felix quite missed a trick there. So just check those stats after he holds his serve here. But he is ahead of him in this set. But I think that's probably because he's leading 5-4.
Well, let's take a gander at Anisimova and Iga Swiatek. There's the money line, -345 for Iga, a rematch of that Wimbledon final. That was one-way traffic in the highest degree, over under 20.5, spreads 4.5, and you see some set betting. And we were talking about this before, Tim, but I definitely think that there's a level of respect for Anisimova that they don't expect it to be a complete beatdown like the Wimbledon matchup was. Starting fast is huge, and we'll see with Iga. The one thing I was holding in my back pocket for this, though, Tim, is we talked about it on the show live as it was happening in the Alexandrova match. Iga's the best at covering spreads down the stretch, and I almost feel like when you get her in a match where she flips it, sometimes she is a slow starter. That's when I'm all over the game line, because we saw it at Alexandrova where she's up a break. The line is like 4.5, and then a couple games later, it's up to 6.5. So we'll see. I think playing downhill for Iga is the way to go. So I would always be monitoring her on the live bet.
Yeah, she's not one to sort of lift her sort of foot off your throat if she's in front, is she? And take it easy and just sort of coast to the winning line. She likes to get there as quick as she can. One thing I did want to ask you, Mitch, what was your guys' reaction over there in the States about the scheduling of this match? Because I was very surprised personally that it wasn't a night game.
Yeah, that was interesting. I think this says more about, well, I think it's two things. One's probably the answer. One might be the answer if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But Naomi Osaka still remains like the biggest star left in this tournament in terms of appeal. So I think that was probably what it was. But you might look at it and say Muchova resting, getting a little bit of a breather to have that match later in the day. But yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Like, you have an American player and you have the reigning Wimbledon champion, someone that's won this tournament before. So I probably would have flipped it, and I definitely don't think it helps Anisimova that you're playing Iga during the day versus Iga at night.
Agree, because I think Anisimova's looked excellent every time she's played at night. Against a joint, she was good. She was obviously fabulous against Beatrice Haddad-Maia, and I think it's quite well known that Iga much prefers playing in the day than playing at night. Especially, I thought with being the American player, with the organizer, I thought they might have done her a favor there and put her on at night. But it seems to me that the favor's sort of gone more in Iga's side than it has Anisimova's. But anyway, she's going to have to beat her whatever it is. So it will be interesting to see. But I was a little bit surprised at that. You're probably right though, with maybe that global appeal with Osaka. Perhaps that comes into play.
Could be Iga too, being like, I'd rather play during the day, maybe flexing her muscle. And Naomi did play during the day. It was the Labor Day matchup here, holiday, to get the eyeballs on. So maybe you inverse it there. But yeah, doesn't do her any favors. But just looking at this match, I mean, it's shifting even more as I'm looking at Bet Rivers now, where the money, it seems like it's coming in on Iga. Do you think there's a bet for Anisimova in this matchup you like? Game spread to win a set, or maybe even make things interesting on the money line?
I think again, maybe, I mean, obviously everyone knows my position by now, so I'll be cheering on Anisimova, but I think perhaps it'll be interesting to see in play is probably a good way I would be looking at it, how the start is. I do think it's imperative that Anisimova starts consistently reasonably well. she just doesn't want to go down early. If she goes 3-0 down after 10 minutes, then it's going to be obviously an uphill battle for her. So I think she has to hold her first service game, and she has to be sort of, at least, like I said earlier, she has to be parity at 1 each after 2 games. I think that really is key to how she starts.
Yeah, not a lot of bad losses on her resume the last couple, months, outside of obviously the Wimbledon final, and her beating in Canada, her beating Emma Raducanu was one of the most impressive displays. It was like 2-1. So yeah, I think game spread's the way to go. Maybe even a tiebreaker prop. Iga has played, and Iga's on cloud 9 right now. Coach Wim Fissette's doing a wonderful job with her. But she's got some heavy heavy sets, really. The Paolini final, like there's not, there have been matches where she's pushed, she finds a way to win. So maybe over set 1 or, over total games even. It could be straight sets and you could still hit that number.
I mean, yeah, none more so than Kalinskaya the other day when down 5-1 and she was being outplayed, wasn't she, by Kalinskaya? Yeah. And Iga did what Iga does and just come back. And then as soon as he got to a tiebreak, there was only one player winning that tiebreak, wasn't there? Having been up 5-1 in the set. So you can never count her out. And like you mentioned earlier, if she does get up early, that's one to look at in play, because she's not the kind of player to sort of coast through to the end. She will be foot down and getting it done as quick as she possibly can.
I'm going to amend my statement. Not only that, but I think when she's down, she might be my favorite WTA player to, sprinkle on the money line to come back, because we saw both ends of the spectrum, as you mentioned, the Kalinskaya match. She's never fully out of it. Rybakina, and I forget the tournament, it all blends together, but, Rybakina was serving for it against her in, was that Cincy or Canada? I can't remember. And then she just turns it around. So, yeah, I think that'd be one to consider too. We've got 2 Thursday matchups that we can look at, as well as we keep eyes on this de Minaur match with Felix that continues to impress, as those guys just are battling now in the 10th game, with de Minaur trying to level it at 5. Novak Djokovic, Carlos Alcaraz, and the number is sky high. Djokovic plus 310, which never happens where he's that much of an underdog, but it speaks volumes about the form of the talented Spaniard. The 2022 U.S. Open champion Carlos Alcaraz is minus 385. There you see the spread at 5.5, and the various bets you can make. I look at it as age, I look at it as court time, all these things, but does that number accurately reflect how you think this match should be priced, Tim, that Djokovic is a pretty much overwhelming underdog?
I mean, when you think Djokovic has won their last 3 hard court meetings and obviously beat him on a similar stage at the Australian Open this year, Djokovic does look to be sort of lacking a little bit of respect there from the players, perhaps. But as we've seen with Alcaraz, he's going to make it a tough fitness one for Djokovic, isn't he? So whether Novak can get the better of him over 5 sets again, but like we said, those last 3 hard court meetings, he's took all three of them. So he won't be phased going into this. You can guarantee that.
No, and I have no doubt in my mind that if you gave Djokovic truth serum, he would say he'd rather play Carlos than Sinner right now. Like I fully believe that, not just because of the recent track history, but also as great as Carlos is, I still maintain that his ceiling is higher than even Jannik Sinner's ceiling. But there will be openings in this matchup for Djokovic to work his way into a match, maybe steal a couple games and get some momentum. And that's how he won in Australia. That's how he won in the Olympics. That said, I think I would really favor Djokovic to win a set. I don't see this going straight sets, but I'd be hard pressed if Djokovic pulls this off. I mean, if he wins this and then there's Sinner, so you go Fritz, Alcaraz, Sinner to win a major. It's unbelievably remarkable. But I think where I'm looking at right now, because game spreads could be tricky depending on conserving energy and what you're looking at, but it's only minus 200 is the problem too. So that's a weird thing, right, Tim? Like the money line is so off, but to win a set is just 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, to win a set. I mean, what's the sort of set betting? Yeah, sort of 3-1 Carlos looks fairly short, plus 150, and total sets over 3.5, sort of minus 150. Yeah, fairly short, but probably about right. And I think Djokovic, like you said, a tough one to get in the game spread, plus 5.5. But like you said, if he's down, say maybe a break in the set, he might just, certainly 2, he might just let that roll by and get back into the next one. So a tough one, maybe the games, because if you see him winning a set 36.5, that should cash. If it does go 4 sets, you'd be very surprised if that didn't. If it goes 4.
Plus 260 for Alcaraz winning in exactly 4 sets, maybe worth a little sprinkle there. But yeah, I think games might be the safer one if you expect a set involved. And I would just hope, because the last time Alcaraz talked about Djokovic, and that was after the Australian Open match, he said he didn't even look at the Olympic film. I hope he watches the tape this time. That's what my plea is for Alcaraz. But we'll see. I mean, how is Djokovic going to recover? And how do you see that extra day off, Tim, helping him, if anything?
It certainly can't hurt, can it? Do you mean help Alcaraz or with the
Djokovic as the older player? Yeah, that he gets that extra day to recover and rest a little.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to do him any harm, is it? We did see him, like we said, hunched over in that 4th set. Whether that was a little bit of just sort of acting for the crowd, maybe sort of putting on perhaps just to try and sort of lull Fritz into false sense of security. Perhaps he was sort of play acting a little bit because he looked fairly fresh in his interview after the game. But yeah, it's certainly not going to hurt him, and he's gonna know the best ways to recover and be at his best for this match. And it's going to be like, it'd be a night match winner. I assume all those semifinals are both night matches there.
You can get an over one tie. You can get one tie break for minus 127, and you can get over 16.5 aces for minus 114. So something to consider. This is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be the earlier match because of the time, the day difference. So that's one to consider there. And then the final match to look at before we bid adieu on Betting Weekly Tennis Live will be that Sabalenka Pegula match, which Aryna is a solid favorite again, minus 295, a rematch of last year's U.S. Open final. Sabalenka took it 2 sets, 2 very, very competitive sets, but it was Sabalenka getting it done. Here we go now. Pegula's first seeded player that she faces in the tournament is the defending champion, Aryna Sabalenka. Yeah, you see set bettings, the spread, all the like. I got to be honest, Tim. I think Pegula game spread 4.5, given that Sabalenka has been winning these matches, been the best tiebreak player on the planet, among other things. But that was the number that jumped out to me at 4.5. Pegula getting quite a few games.
Yeah, you've read my mind there, because as soon as I saw that 4.5 on the screen, that's actually the first time I've seen it, the 4.5 start there. That sort of jumped out at me there, minus 120. I'd be not amazed if she didn't cover that, but that looks straight away. It looks a good price to me. That minus 120. I thought it would be 3.5, probably the spread. Like you say, the way we've seen Sabalenka play so many tie breaks this year, she's obviously she's still winning and she's making these semi-finals and finals, but I don't think she's been as good this year as she was last year, and that probably goes to show the fact that she hasn't won a slam that this year, losing a couple of finals. And Pegula, they're looking really solid yesterday. And I think if she does hit the ball as solid as she did, she's going to force errors off that Sabalenka racket. Yeah, that 4.5 handicap, that jumped straight out at me when I saw that.
Crowd's going to be on her, obviously. Pegula's going to have a lot of support. Sabalenka maybe doesn't handle that as best. Not the worst, but, might be a little tougher. Last year's U.S. Open final, 7-5, 7-5. So that would be that number there. I think Pegula is going to have a game plan. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it can work. But yeah, it's weird, right? Sabalenka not as good as maybe last year, still a very great and capable number one. But you could have said the same thing about Pegula, and she's kind of snapped into form too. So I'll be looking at that matchup too. And I also think, though, you got to just, if it does get to a tie break, it's probably going to be juiced up. Sabalenka just finds a way to win. What are we at, like 19 straight, 18 straight?
Yeah, I think that is she 19-1 for the year, perhaps? Did I see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, amazing stat. So when you think the majority of tie breaks between probably top 5 players in the world aren't probably maybe 60-40 in favor of the higher ranked player, but not much more than that. And she's winning sort of, well up into the high 90% of those tie breaks. It's pretty incredible. So a tight match, I'm sure, but 4.5 I thought was generous there. That's the first initial thoughts on that. Well, Minaur had a break point, didn't take it. We're on juice here at 5-5.
Do you see either of these players posing a threat to Jannik, assuming Sinner gets through and that's the semifinal matchup Friday night?
Initial thoughts would be no.
Yeah,
I don't think either of them carry the weapons to.
I guess which one would be maybe a little tougher based on the matchup, or is it about the same for you?
That's a good question, because I think Felix can probably, his highest level you could say slightly higher than de Minaur's, whereas de Minaur's probably his sort of star appeal is his consistency, isn't it? He doesn't give much away, makes a lot of balls, and if you're not playing well and your errors are coming from your racket, then de Minaur's going to take advantage of that. But yeah, a tricky one to answer that. So yeah, I think if Sinner was watching this, I think he'd probably rather play Felix.
Probably, yeah. Might leave more energy in the tank given what would be coming in the final, we assume, with Alcaraz or Djokovic. So finally, before we go here, Betting Weekly Tennis Live, it's time for that daily double. And we've talked about a lot of different picks and plays and, the matches that we've got going on. But what are the 2 bets you want to add to the daily double?
Yeah, I think that my sort of best bet of the day, I think, is that under 151.5 total minutes in a Musetti Sinner match. I think that looks a little bit of value there, looking at the sub markets, whether it's in the straight sets and the handicaps. And I think it was a tricky one to call in the Muchova Osaka match, just because we're not completely sure Muchova. But looking on their past matches and their sort of service points, one return points record, over 21.5 total games there at minus 108. Yeah.
Okay. Well, looking at it now, obviously lines are subject to change, but you have minus 108 on the over total games in Osaka, Muchova. You've also got under 151.5 minutes. Got to get home early. Got to get to dinner. Got to get those dinner plans in New York City. In the Sinner Musetti match, that's minus 114 separately. Together, by my estimation, it's about plus 260 or so. So it's a solid little payday if that hits.
Well, hopefully his Open. I mean, Sod's Law, we've done it many times this year. I think we did over 10.5 in the Fritz match. And yesterday it wasn't in set 1, but sure enough, it was straight away in set 2. And that times happens is uncanny. But yeah, hopefully we can get those across the line tonight.
And it'll be very interesting if it goes according to plan. We know that's never, a sure thing, but it has been in the men's game. If it's Sinner and Alcaraz US Open final, it'd be the 8th straight slam between the 2 of them. It'll be very interesting, Tim, to see what that line is priced at and what the different odds are in that match, because Sinner's been the guy in the hard court, but Alcaraz has been able to and still holds the head-to-head. Cincinnati didn't finish, but he's the one guy that's been able to stop him at times.
Yeah, he has, isn't he? There's still a little bit of water to go under the bridge before we get there, but I think all of us as fans are probably hoping that's the final we're going to see. And there's a long way to go in this head-to-head, isn't there? And like you say, Alcaraz still has the better of it at the moment, but Sinner's coming clawing back bit by bit.
Well, I can't wait. Tim Dennis, this has been a blast. All U.S. Open from the draw show to now. It's been so fun. Betting Weekly Tennis Live is back next week. Post-U.S. Open, there's still tennis to discuss. We're going to be covering it all season long. And you got to make sure you download the Bet Rivers app. You get that 50% profit boost. All U.S. Open. We've still got plenty of days left. There's so many matches, doubles matches as well. So you can get in on the action there. Tim Dennis, it was a blast. Thanks for joining me on today's show.
Thanks, Mitch. Enjoy the tennis.
Certainly will. This was Betting Weekly Tennis Live, back next Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Follow our socials at Because We Win, all part of the Bet Rivers Network. Enjoy the U.S. Open, and we'll talk to you soon.